And good morning, Hoosier Nation. Welcome to another victorious morning edition of Hoosier Morning After. This is Hoosier Morning After Oregon. Last night in an 8:30 game that went pretty late, your Indiana Hoosiers go on to defeat Oregon at home 92-74, bringing their record to 17-8 on the season, 8-6 in the Big Ten, sitting kind of about ninth right now in the Big Ten, kind of clumped up there. There could be a lot of movement in that area where they sit in the Big Ten in the coming up games. A game that felt like going into it, it could be a trap game. Oregon, while they are at the bottom of the Big Ten, has been playing a lot better as of recently and had a very recent game going into this one, a very close one against Purdue. So a very dangerous team. And as the game started, the fear of a trap game only got worse, at least for me, where Indiana would miss their first 4 shots and looked like it would be one of those kind of off shooting nights where there just appeared to be a lid on the rim. But it was Sam Alexis that was the first to break the seal on the basket as he would continue to build on his recent success in this game. IU eventually would find some momentum getting back into their made baskets on assist rhythm in that first half to take a 6-point lead into halftime. Second half, we were all waiting on the other shoe to drop, and the guys calling the game were not being too good at spelling those feelings, as well as they brought up the offensive lows that Indiana has tend to have, or leads they tend to lose in the second half. But that wasn't the case. Lamar looked at Hoosier Nation and said, "Hold my beer," going for 25 points in the second half on an incredibly efficient 80% from the field and 50% from three to take Indiana to the final horn and the win at 92-74. Thank you for being here with us. I'm your host, Chad Schwartzkopf. Here with me is Martha, the mop lady. Martha, give me your opening thoughts on this game.
I wasn't really certain what to expect, right? I mean, Oregon's record was what it was, and obviously they're having a rough time. Not kind of a surprise from a Dana Altman team. He's usually got Oregon right kind of in the thick of things, top 25 team, and he's certainly made some noise on the college basketball landscape out there. So really quite a surprise. And generally, a team that's usually that comes in and is long and athletic and pretty solid. Some familiar faces on that squad. Yasir Roseman, who obviously was an assistant with IU during the Woodson years. So storyline there, but wasn't sure what to expect. Oregon just came off a game at Purdue where they lost by 4, I think 68-64 or 66-62, something like that. So there's a rock fight in West Lafayette, but still, that's no easy place to play. And when you've got one conference win, but you played well in Mackey Arena, that kind of says something. So maybe they were finding their stride. And of course, the way the game started with Wilkerson, I think missing his first 4 or 5 shots, something like that. It's like, how's this going to go? But I really thought that IU played with a lot of energy, specifically on the defensive end. For as good as Lamar Wilkerson was, I thought Sam Alexis was key to IU, and I know we'll get to players individually, but really set the tone, right? I think it was just a good performance, a win that Indiana needed, obviously, coming off that battle with Wisconsin on Saturday. You wanted to get this one because there are 2 really, really tough games looming on the schedule. So it was good to see Indiana get the win last night. It was nice to see the 76 team honored, all the storylines that go along with that. So it was a good night for IU, and they've got themselves in a position now where, there's a couple tough games coming up, but they're in a position where if take care of business at home and maybe get one on the road, that you've got a good chance to make the tournament.
Yeah, and you do a good job of talking in our transitions here, beautifully talking about the defense. And I think the defense obviously has been the story that when the offense is struggling, they're able to keep Indiana in this. And when the offense is humming like it is and the defense is continuing to do well, this is the outcome that you get and what this team can be. And the defense in this one, especially with the few games in the Big Ten that we are going to have where the other team's best player is their big man, he averages 17. And for IU to able to keep him under his average at 15 was kind of a win in this sense. It's, to me, it's considering the narrative that we had going into the season of Indiana's lack of size. I will take that every time. And I think Indiana did a good job overall of doubling him when they needed to. There were a few fails at that. Obviously, there was a time in the second half, I believe, where Tucker came over to help him, and he was able to easily dump it to Tucker's man, who was then open. Obviously, no one replaced that at that point to get an easy dunk. But overall, I thought when Indiana got into doubling situations or did that on defense, they did a fantastic job of recovering. When Oregon was able to pass out of that, they did a good job of rotating, finding the man to get back to and everything like that. And I think it's this defense obviously needs to continue to hum, because when we have off shooting nights and everything like that, they always say defense is the thing that travels more than offense does. What were your thoughts on this game defensively for Indiana?
Yeah, I thought the tone was set pretty early. When you kind of look at it statistically, it's, the first thing I always look to at IU is how did the rebound situation go, right? And I thought overall, especially on the defensive end, we out rebounded them 24-17. Gave up a couple more offensive rebounds to them, but we controlled things because with Biddle on Oregon getting healthy, he's a large dude. They've got some other long guys. So I'm like, how, we've talked at length kind of about our lack of size or lack of traditional center. What's that going to look like? That was my one concern coming into the game. So to see us control things on the rebounding end, specifically defensively, I thought that was good. We won the battle on points in the paint, 30-26. So I really thought that our big men, kind of turned the defense into some offense and really helped us win the game. Again, we can talk about Lamar Wilkerson all we want, but I really thought Sam Alexis and the way he played last night defensively, he contained, he held Biddle to 3 of 14 from the field, which he's a force. And I thought that was a big ask for him. And I thought he did exceptionally well. Thought our guards played, of course, Connor Enright is Connor Enright. He's flying around at the beginning of the game. And he had he's the guy we've talked about it. He's the guy that you hate to play against, or the guy on the other team that you hate, but if he's on your side, you absolutely love, because he's a pit bull. Does he flop at times? Probably, but he puts himself in a position to win some of those 50-50 calls. So he's a guy you love to have, but he certainly helped set the tone defensively as well. So overall, I thought it was a really, really good effort defensively by Indiana.
I'm looking forward to and predicting possibly a Sheehy style Connor Enright in Mackey taunting the student section and everything. That's going to be a hell of a game. That student section is going to be booing and hating him, and it's just going to fuel him like crazy. So that's one that's I'm looking forward to greatly in this. Offensively in this game, just a beautiful second half. I mean, that was one I'd love to go back and watch and kind of dissect and look at even more. And I think obviously going into it, it's a matchup zone that it was even reported and said leading into this game that Darren DeVries was the most concerned about going into it, and what that would have done to stymie Indiana's offense. And I think they had a good game plan where he basically said they were going to run their sets as if it was man. And that was very good. And there were some really good plays in this game that you saw on some really good movement. And I think the first one that really kind of stood out to me that I loved was there was a moment where I think it was Connor had the ball kind of on the left side, just kind of at the end of the arch, and you had Tucker and Lamar together on the wing there. And Tucker, while they had a little bit of screening action, Tucker dove to the basket on a backdoor cut. And that kind of drew Tucker's man to the basket with him and caused Lamar's man to kind of hesitate and wait and be ready for that dish out or that replacement. But Lamar followed right behind him and ducked in as well. Perfect pass into him and a great layup. Just some nice plays, some good things that we saw, some crisp passes and everything like that in this game. What were your thoughts on IU's offensive game?
I thought, obviously, when you've got one guy that scores 41 points, right, that's just a hot hand. And I think he even was quoted as saying, like, he kept shooting and I think he made a comment that it just felt easy. And you love to hear that out of your shooting guard. But even with his 41 point performance, you look at the balance across the group of starters, and it's, you had each guy in double figures outside of Connor Enright, and he's not a guy that's generally going to score, or you need to have score in double figures, right? So, while he's not scoring, he's leading the team in assists, but the balance across the group of starters. So Alexis with 16, DeVries with 15, Nick Dorn with 11. That's what you want to see. And I think key is obviously continuing to have Nick Dorn play well. If we can get him scoring in double figures, with Tate and Connerway kind of falling out of that starting group and not sure where he's at, for Nick Dorn to step up while scoring. The times we struggle, we talk about that USC game where DeVries and Dorn really struggled. I don't know that we had double figure points between the two, but to get 15 and 11 from those two while getting 41 from Lamar Wilkerson, if we get that kind of offensive output, and that's not even mentioning Sam Alexis going 8 for 8 from the field. It was a really, really good night offensively for IU. Probably one of the better games we've seen against a good Big Ten opponent. So it was nice to see, and hopefully something we can carry on over to. I mean, if we can find a way to score 80 plus on the road at Mackey and Illinois, that's what it's going to take to win there, because those are two tough places to play. So hopefully it's a situation where the offense is really starting to find its stride.
Yeah, and let's get into some of those players and everything. Obviously, Lamar's the one we have to kick it off with. Just another fantastic, nearly record-setting night for him. 41 points, just 4 shy of a new record, on 13 of 20 shooting, 6 for 12 from 3, 9 of 11 from the field, 3 assists, 5 rebounds. His confidence, like you said, was just soaring. And he even said that in the game. There was a great moment where he made a basket on a foul, and DeVries even came out and gave him like a big high five and everything like that, and like dapped him up. And you could just see the energy between that. And great from DeVries to come out and give him that juice, to give him that kind of thing going off of it. And to me, one of the great things about him scoring that many points is so much of it came off assist, not just him playing hero ball. Now, don't get me wrong, he had some fantastic hero moments where he was able to back a guy down or in the corner late shot clock and made a fadeaway, which he even kind of made a face on one of those where he had probably not much angle at all in the basket and knocked it down. But it was just really, he was scoring on all 3 levels really well in this one, and doing it with the players out there with him, setting him up for success, the coaching staff seeing that and feeling that and calling plays for him to put him in places where he could score and everything like that. Just a fantastic game from him. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, what more can you say, right? I mean, the basket seemed a mile wide, and it was consistent across the group of starters. I thought, especially as the game went on, right? I was fearful when the game started that, we're missing shots. Oregon's hanging around. I think they even jumped out to a 6-point lead at one point. So I'm like, man, is this going to be one of those games where offensively it just seems like we can't buy a bucket? And we started to heat up towards the end of the second half, and it was just it felt like a clinic in the second half, just with some of that Assembly Hall magic. Maybe it took the 76 team coming out in halftime and the undefeated team to get us going. But yeah, it was everything you said and more. The basket just seemed a mile wide. And again, I hope that it's, it feels like it just feels like, start the year, obviously, you and I sat here and talked a lot about like, what is this going to look like when Nick Dorn gets healthy? Because we've heard a lot about him. You've got Tate and Connerway. So it's almost like it took a little while for, the offense to find its stride, or for us to find its identity. And I think that a lot of that was guys' roles still developing. And it feels like now, with what we've got with Nick Dorn and maybe the uncertainty around Connerway, maybe, we found our true offensive identity. And I'm just really hopeful. I'm going to be really curious to see what these 2 road games look like. But my hope is that maybe we've found our offensive identity, and again, USC is kind of the outlier when you look at the last handful of games. Wisconsin had its rough moments, but I'm hopeful that we're kind of hitting a stride here at the right time.
Yeah, and I think you make a good point there. We've had a rough time figuring out who was going to be and what kind of flow this team was going to have, and I think it's in part and due to the fact that offensively this team was looking very one-dimensional with all the guys on the outside and not much contribution inside the arc. And I think the recent success of Sam Alexis is kind of gives the ability for Lamar to have a game like he did. And Sam just continues to build on his game with this team, scoring 16 in this game on a perfect 8 from 8 from the field, all going against one of the best big men or one of the top big men in the Big Ten. And season averages for him, scoring wise, going into this game was just around 7 points. So obviously it's continuing to go up for this. And DeVries was asked about Sam Alexis after the game, saying sometimes as coaches, we have to admit your mistakes. Adding that there are some parts of his game that they didn't utilize earlier in the season that they are prioritizing now. Guys, let's take a moment and just bathe in that for a minute. The coaching staff admitting fault and making changes that directly affecting success in this team. Come on, hallelujah. Where has that been? How great is that to hear? It's his success, like I said, that he's building that just takes the pressure off the guards on this team, takes the pressure off Lamar, and draws some gravity. We talk about that on the offensive side in college basketball, and it's gravity of the defense. Where's the scoring going to draw that attention? And Lamar having success, people are sticking to him, which there's less help coming over for Alexis. And then the other way around, Alexis having success is going to draw some gravity and some little bit of space for other guys. Your thoughts on this great turnaround by Sam Alexis?
Yeah, and how to go back to what you just said, it's like it's almost jaw dropping to hear an Indiana basketball coach show a little bit of humility, and not to name names, but just trying to imagine past coaches saying something similar. It's good to see that humility, but it's also good to recognize what Alexis is doing, 8 for 8 from the field, and Reed Bailey's gone through kind of some of his challenges and just kind of struggles at times to finish at the rim. So to have Sam Alexis step up consistently here lately, again, I go back to what we talked about, like this offense kind of finding its identity. I think we mentioned Nick Dorn, but also Sam Alexis really cementing himself as kind of our low block guy, and Reed Bailey turning into that bench guy. It's finding identity at the right time, and better late than never in terms of finding what Sam Alexis can contribute and how he can make those contributions. He's been a really, really pleasant surprise here down the stretch for Indiana, specifically yesterday, both offensively and defensively against Biddle. Biddle looks like he's should be playing Y ball in some small community wherever he's from, and looks like like he dropping his kids off at preschool or something. He looks like he should have been out of college about 5 years ago, but that's college basketball now, and for him to contain him was impressive to see, and then obviously on the offensive end as well.
Yeah, and it's great to see, because obviously if you rewind back, maybe it's just naivety on our point and something that was ingrained into us from prior coaching staffs, where the team at the beginning of the season was basically the team that we had, and we didn't see much evolution or change and everything like that. But that's what this comment from DeVries and the success we've seen recently, that gives me great hope about this coaching staff currently, and the fact that they can admit when they're wrong. They are able to make the changes and modify things and find things out of their team as the season goes on. So that's fantastic to see, and just makes me feel a lot better about the future, obviously, of the program and this coaching staff. So the next one I want to talk about is kind of Tucker. And Tucker obviously has been struggling scoring wise as of recently, but has still been one of those players that Indiana needs on the court to kind of be the other coach on there. And when things are struggling, he's good at kind of being a secondary point guard per se, more kind of instructional rather than ball handling wise. But looked a lot better in this game and was able to contribute on the scoring side a lot more, finishing with 15 points in this one on 5 for 10 from the field, 2 for 6 from 3, and a perfect 3 for 3 in the from the charity stripe. And the other interesting thing just to look on, and he was obviously surprised as well. I think it was his dad that was surprised in the post game. 7 assists in this, which you think would be the top on the team, but not with Connor in there. Connor above him there with 8. It was really Tucker's second half that was the more efficient for him, scoring 8 of his 15 on a perfect 3 for 3 shooting, including 1 made 3. So talk about Tucker, his more success finding some more scoring and just being that leader on the court.
Yeah, I think he was asked about it last night and just said, obviously having some struggles there for a chunk of the middle of the schedule, and him coming to the realization that, he's only got so many more opportunities to put this uniform on. So figuring out a way, even when shots aren't falling, to contribute. And I think watching him, and if you watch him closely, and I think, and I don't have it in front of me, but there was something on X I saw last week where teams are when teams are playing at their best offensively, who's on the court, and for Indiana, it's Tucker DeVries, whether he's scoring or not. So to me, that just says he's finding other ways to contribute, even when he's not scoring. And that's what you need a leader to do. And I think that's Tucker DeVries. And obviously last night, I think he was really, really solid offensively. I mean, 5 for 10 from the field, that's, you take it. 3 for 3 from the free throw line, and 2 of 6 from 3. But to get 15 points out of him while you get 41 from Lamar Wilkerson and another 11 from Nick Dorn, that's going to win Indiana a lot of basketball games if you get that type of production. So I think that again, it goes back to kind of the humility piece. You want to get 20 plus 18 to 20 points out of Tucker DeVries every night, but when you're not, what else are you getting from him? And last night he was second in the team in assists. So when shots aren't falling, we're still getting 15 points out of him, but we're also getting him distributing the basketball. So I thought he was key, and I thought he played really, really well defensively as well.
Yeah. And next one I want to talk about Nick Dorn. And while you look at the stat sheet and he scores 11 points for Indiana, and you'll take that from a starter anytime you get multiple starters in double digits. It was more kind of an efficiency that continues to kind of struggle a little bit with him in these last recent games. He finished 2 for 7 from the field. But what it was that allowed him to get those 11 points was that he was 5 for 5 from the free throw line. So really good to see him kind of diversify his game, or continue to diversify his game, getting to the basket, trying to not just be that one-dimensional three-point shooter, but great to see him trying to find little other avenues where he can contribute in this game. Also had 3 rebounds, 2 assists on the game. But just good to be out there when you have all things firing well with Sam Alexis, your second leading scorer, and your star player going for 40. Being a complimentary player and scoring double digits is all you need from Nick Dorn in this situation. Your thoughts on Nick's game?
Yeah, Nick, we saw some highs. We've seen some, I won't say lows, but I think part of it's just him figuring out as he's gotten back into routine where his fit was. But obviously he's had some really, really big games for us. And I think Nick Dorn's a guy that has to average double figures for us as well on the offensive end. And to get that out of him last night, obviously the whole team started a little bit quiet and he kind of disappeared offensively in the beginning of the game, but much more present as the game went on, as the game moved on. So to get 11 from him, he's not a super athletic guy, but when he gets an open look, he's going to knock it down. Obviously, you want to see a little bit better than 2 for 7, but part of that is him maybe pressing a little bit. He was able to get to the free throw line, and he was 5 for 5 from there. But you're now to a point where with your core group outside of Sam Alexis, you've got guys that are all playing over 30 minutes. Nick Dorn's now to a point where he's playing 34 minutes, and you think about not having him early in the year, it's evolved considerably. So again, I think he doesn't have the reps that other guys have, but he's starting to find that rhythm and be much more consistent, more regularly offensively for us. And again, I go back to what I've said a couple times here, is this team finding its identity here at the right time. And I think we'll see a lot here the next couple games. I don't know that we'll win both or win either, but if we can go compete, then come back and finish strong at home, I think that'll say a lot about Indiana's chances to make the tournament.
Yeah, and you said something interesting there, talking about the success and everything that IU's had recently. One thing that we've talked a lot on this show afterwards is with all those minutes, like you said, that you're seeing multiple players in 30s. They didn't look tired. They didn't look gassed in this game. Now, granted, when you're scoring well, when the game is fun, your legs get a little extra juice, and apply that also to being at home is going to add a little bit of that as well. But good to see them be able to have a game where you don't see that fatigue set in and all that to deal with. The last player we want to kind of talk about, and we'll talk about a few bench guys as well, was Connor. I think Connor continues to be a hell of a point guard for IU on both ends of the field, scoring 4 points in this one, 1 for 2, but did make a 3 that I think continues to be a good thing for him, just to kind of splash some points here and there, getting to the rim, making a 3-pointer at one point, just to keep the opponent's defense honest with him, but continues to be that gnat and that crazy guy for IU. And one that we talked about a little bit, that with Tatum sitting out, was a little bit concerning going into the Purdue game, but he has shouldered that responsibility and done a really good job with it. Your thoughts on Connor?
He's such a pest, but he's our pest. And, he's, again, it's there's guys like that on teams that we will sit there and complain about, and that we could name them. Over the years, Purdue always seems to have one. Iowa always seems to have one. You think about Aaron Kraft back in the day, and just those little pesty guards that take a lot of pride in how they defend, a lot of pride in getting under other teams' skin, but also what he's contributing offensively for us, leading the team in assists. I love the way that he just flies down the court offensively and tries to make something out of nothing. He's just your typical glue guy, and a pest. There's that fine line between trying to create and also becoming a flopper. But I think that's just part of what he does, who he is, and I'm glad he's on our side. So I thought it was another game again where you think about that foul he drew against Wisconsin, right? Being in the right place at the right time. He's a guy that has a knack for being in the right place at the right time. So I'll take him on our team any day of the week. And to your point, I can't wait to see what may or may not happen in Mackey Arena here next week.
Yeah. Wonderful pest, but he's our pest. So toe that line, continue to toe that line. It's gonna be so fun. There might be some fists thrown in Mackey. We talked a little bit before we went live, and it's interesting to see Tatum Conaway. Obviously, we didn't see him dress at all or in there at all for the Wisconsin game, reportedly dealing with some sort of sickness as well. And then we also talked a little bit about as well, we haven't seen Trent Sicily get as many minutes. And I think that's an interesting kind of conversation to have. I know Gritty's a bit in the chat is a big Trent Sicily fan and everything like that. And you want to get your freshman minutes and find him to be able to build success. But the argument is, who do you put in or who do you take out? And what do you do to find those minutes for him? And when Indiana's humming like they are, you don't want to take DeVries out. You obviously will a little bit just to spell him like you normally would, but you don't want to give Trent extended run there because you could start to lose a lead, which I think at one point the coaching staff felt that kind of happening when Indiana was up 14 at one point and they drew it within 10. I think that was a great timeout at that point by DeVries to kind of settle things, and it did its job. But I don't see those minutes for him. And then along the same lines with Tate and Connerway, struggling and having a tough time to get back there is concerning to a degree, but is spelled a little bit, like we just said, with what Connor is able to do in his absence. Your thoughts on kind of all of that narrative and those two players?
Yeah, you think about Trent Sisley, and I think he's the one that jumps out. Is how can you, because he's had some really bright moments, as a freshman and been a contributor, and obviously I think he's a large part of what this core looks like moving forward. But he's also a freshman, and he's also probably playing in a longer season than he's had to play in his basketball career. So freshmen tend to, especially when you're hitting that kind of home stretch of the season, you need to be at your strongest, and freshmen are still adjusting and adapting. They have highs and lows, and you might not have that room for some of that freshmen bring, some of those ups and downs. So I think the leash is shorter. Also, you start to think about matchups, like to your point against Oregon. Who do you sub him in for? Who do you get minutes for? Right. Especially when we're starting to hit that stride offensively. So I'm not concerned with that. I think they'll continue to find moments to get him in, and he seems like a guy that's completely bought in. Tate and Connerway, that's a head scratcher. Just think about the injuries, the illness, the lack of minutes. He's in, he's out. I'm not sure where he's at. And there's the argument to be made that Indiana looks a little bit better. I don't say without him on the court, but they're hitting their stride offensively. So where do you plug him in at? So not a ton of thought on it. It's like it's at this point, you kind of, as we're hitting our stride, you kind of put your trust and faith in what the staff is doing. And I think obviously when you think about making runs late into the season and into March, you need solid guard play. So I think there's still a home for Connerway, especially as somebody's not performing or struggling. He's a guy that might be able to come off the bench and find some identity there. So we'll see what that looks like. But again, I've got full faith in Coach DeVries and the staff.
Yeah, I think you make a great point there at the end, especially about Tatum. He can be that guy that can come in and just have a lightning game that you didn't expect. And you can obviously get the same kind of thing from Sicily. I mean, he was the one that came in. It didn't really do much in the UCLA game, but then came in at the end and had that wonderful play to make baskets and win the game for Indiana. So they can just kind of be those, I guess, spare tire to say generally for Indiana, and can come in and have little contributions here and there. And I think you can also kind of lump in a little bit of Josiah Miles into that as well. He's kind of that player recently that's found a little bit of niche for this team to kind of come in and make little impressions, do some little things for Indiana. Obviously not filling up a stat sheet, but just doing what they need to do with the minutes that they are given. Turning on to stats in this game, obviously offensively, great to look at the points per possession in this game. Indiana finishing with 1.46, probably one of the highest points per possession of this season, if I were to dig deeper into it. 9 turnovers, so not bad in this game. There weren't really kind of any major looking turnovers that bugged me of errant passes or anything like that in this game. And obviously the favorite stat of the season, the assists to made baskets in this game, 22 assists to 30 made baskets, just 8 baskets not off of assists in this game. That's pretty impressive in this game. What stats kind of stand out for you in this one, Martha?
Well, I think you look at the job we did defensively, holding Nate Biddle, who I thought had a ton of good looks, especially in the first half. Just maybe didn't go down, but holding him to 3 for 14 from the field, I thought was really solid. Obviously, shooting 60% from the field, 41% from the 3-point line, 78%, like you said, from the line, and then winning that defensive rebounding battle, I thought was I thought was strong and largest lead of 21 points at one point. So, and it was pretty even from a foul standpoint. So I thought overall, just kind of winning some of those battles that when Indiana's successful, you're seeing us win those. And I thought, to be able to shoot that well from the field, both from the 2-point line, or the 2-point area, the free throw line, and from behind the three. I thought Indiana's going to be tough to beat when they perform that way. So it was good stuff.
Yeah, and I think that number feels a lot even higher with the 3-point makes, because early on in this game, a lot of shots missed from the 3-point line that fell off a little bit for Indiana. We are, though, like you said, getting towards the tail end of this season. Just 3 more home games for basketball, 2 more home games for the women's team. And so that's just a few more opportunities for you to take care of those tickets that are not used and trying to figure out what to do with those tickets. Martha can tell you what you can do with those.
Yeah, I saw Gritty say that in the chat with 3 home games left and 2 for the women. And anytime I'm thinking about, I'm like, man, where did this season go? And obviously with football, just ending a couple weeks ago, it's and obviously, first year for DeVries, the attention hasn't, by the time we solely turned our attention to basketball, the season's 3/4 over. And so it's shocking to be sitting here with only, 5 total home games left for Assembly Hall this season. In a couple seasons, it seemed like they just started. So, yeah. And to your point with the Hoosier Ticket Project, we had probably 25 people at last night's game, which was exciting. And 5 more opportunities to get as many people into Assembly Hall as we can this year. We appreciate everybody that has made donations. Gritty's a donor of ours. We've got a bunch that just continuously donate and are selfless, that allow us to find deserving folks, deserving people, whether they're in the Bloomington community, the Indianapolis community, anywhere in the state of Indiana. We try to remove that financial barrier that may exist and not allowing people to get to games. We try to remove that so people can. So if you're interested in helping get some kids, some families, some deserving individuals to Assembly Hall, you can visit our website, HoosierTicketProject.org/donate to learn more. We accept both tickets and monetary donations. And we're just very, very grateful to everybody that's allowed us to do what we do this entire season, both football and basketball.
Yep. And as you're getting your taxes together for the year, if you're noticing you need a little more charity contributions, get a head start on that and go over to HoosierTicketProject.org and get those donations in so you're not suffering in this tax season next year. Give me your closing thoughts on Indiana's win.
Yeah. So it gets real quick. I think when you look at, where we're at this point, 8-6 in the Big Ten, 17-8 overall, what's that magic number to get Indiana into the tournament? And you look at the schedule as it's forthcoming. Obviously next week's going to be a tough one. We've got a little bit of time off. Our next game's not until, what is that? What's the Sunday? Sunday, yeah, the 15th but we're in Champaign against one of the hottest teams in the country, Illinois, and then we turn around 5 days after that and go to Purdue. So it's going to be a tough couple weeks. The nice thing is we've got a bunch of days to prepare for both games. Then we come home for our last 3 home games. When you start looking at Illinois, at Purdue, at home against Northwestern, home against Michigan State, at home against Minnesota, at Ohio State. You want to try to you really want to try to find a way to win 5 of the 7 if you can, and that's a tough ask because that's going to require maybe beating a Michigan State at home who's playing really well, or maybe winning at an Ohio State. If you can find a way to win at Illinois or at Purdue, that's icing on the cake, I think, at this point. So opportunity is what I think is kind of what comes to mind. I think Indiana's kind of hitting their stride at the right time. Would you have loved to pick up that win at USC? Sure. Would you love to go back and have that Minnesota game over? Sure. But there's always going to be those. We have games like that every single year. But the fact of the matter is that Indiana's got some opportunity ahead of them. They've got some games that if they win, they're going to put themselves in a position to be on the right side of the bubble. I think that's all you can ask in a first year tenure for DeVries, for us to be in a position to make the tournament, something we've struggled at doing over the course of the last decade plus. So it's exciting. I think this team's hitting its offensive stride at the right time. They're playing hard. They're playing hard defensively. And the most important thing is they seem really, really bought in with both what the team's trying to accomplish and with each other. So I think that's good. I'm excited to see how we finish this home stretch of the season.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely, like you said, it's the opportunities. And I think if you looked at and talked to us earlier in this season, and you said that we're sitting almost in the middle of February, and I'm, at least myself, I'm currently sitting in a situation where I have more answers than I have questions with this team. And that always wasn't the case in this season. We constantly had many questions of how they're going to react to this, or who's going to be the main scorer underneath, who's going to be our second or third contributor beyond Tucker and Lamar. And I feel like we have a lot more answers to those types of questions than we had. And I think everything across the board is humming the way you would want it to happen. You've got your star players finding his drive and scoring like crazy. You've got your support 3-point shooter in Nick Dorn, who was injured to start the season and has now come back and been a contributor. Yeah, he's had a little bit of a lull recently, but he's keeping up on that path. Then you have Tucker, who struggled a little bit as of recent, but continues to be on an upward trend as well. You have the point guard situation where your starting point guard has been out and hasn't been doing well, but that question's been answered by Connor Enright taking off and doing really well. And then you add in Sam Alexis finding and unlocking new situations and ways to contribute with this team, and allowing for that gravity in the paint to take away the pressure from those 3-point shooters that Indiana has, all along with the fact of a coaching staff that admits that they're wrong and admits that they have things that they can do to be better. So that makes me happy. That makes me a proud Hoosier. That makes me very happy as where we sit with this team and with this season. And like Martha said, we turn around and we've got 6 games to finish off this season, which is crazy to think. Turn around and 6 games are left, but the opportunity and the door is open. Indiana needs to get through that door, take care of the situation, stay healthy, keep their legs, because fatigue is going to be the very interesting thing that I'm going to keep my eye on. It's maybe the one major question that I have with this team moving forward. But at least as we sit right now, it's a very fun time. It's a very successful team that we have, and let's bask in this. Let's have a good downtime. Let's have good practices this week, because Sunday is going to be a dogfight, and then followed by the next Friday. But thank you for being here with us. Follow us on Twitter. My name is at General Chadwick. You can find Martha at the Mop Lady. Thank you for Bob Thompson for producing the music that you hear on this show. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on the different podcast streams, appreciate those ratings, those thumbs ups, the comments, anything like that you can do. We love doing this podcast for you, bring it to you for free. So any love that you can give is greatly appreciated. We'll be back again in the morning after the next game. Until then, guys, go out there, have yourselves a wonderful game.